to Raconteurs News.
Hi, I'm Andrew K. Fletcher, originator of incline bed therapy, talking to you on Raconteur News.
Good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News on this Thursday evening. We've got a great evening lined up for you, and wow, what an eventful week it's been. Started the week when we got back off our holidays and we got no guest booked for this month apart from Brian Clare on the Tuesday, and unfortunately things took a bit of a turn and Brian couldn't make it, but we've now got to Thursday evening and we've only got 2 slots left in August, so we've got Paul Webster joining us in a few minutes, and then we've got next Tuesday we've got Max Egan, and then we've got before Max Egan on Tuesday we've got a little special that we recorded with Paul and Lisa from the Series Report, and we're putting that out on Tuesday night before Max, and it's just been an incredibly exciting week. It is a funny one for you, Jason. I was having a conversation yesterday. I was saying how my smartphone battery is pretty much knackered. It won't hold its charge. So Tina jokingly said to me, "Oh, what we need is a trip to Rendlesham Forest." And as things seem to happen with us these days, this morning I sent a brief message to Alison Dunlop on Facebook, and her return message was one inviting us to go to Rendlesham Forest. How's that?
Oh, right.
So how's things been with you, Jez?
Yeah, it's been pretty good last couple of days. To be fair, I'm having a bit of time off really during daytime. I'm just doing some housewife stuff, you know. I've done some ironing the other day, and I've been cleaning the house, waiting. I've just been chilling at home and just taking it easy, so I've not really been paying much attention, particularly to mainstream news, but
I must say, you look particularly fetching in that pinny and marigolds there, mate. They really suit you.
Well, yeah, you know what? I sometimes go for the French maid's outfit, you know, with the short skirt and the stockings. It's terrible. I think we're getting a bit of audio problems with in the chat room. People are mentioning that the audio's bad.
Oh right,
so perhaps we might need to try and do something about that.
Yeah, I've just dropped the audios down a little bit. We'll see if that helps, and yeah, we'll see if that hopefully that will address the issue. We had a bit of fun this afternoon as well. Kev Mark called me, and I was just checking through my emails and got one from the local paper, and one of the headlines on the local paper was there's still time to save money on your utility bills if you go with the big switch now. So I thought, hang on, I'm talking to the one of the gas warrant kings here, got to have a bit of fun with this. So I logged into the website and put a comment on there: gas, water and electric are all free, and then a link to Paul Webster's YouTube video. Kev logged in and put a load of comments about the bills of exchange, section 123, and a link to the video that Paul and Kev recorded with Mark Salon at Nottingham a couple of weeks back. So yeah, all good fun.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? You keep them on the toes. You've got to keep them on the toes. You can't give them a free ride, otherwise they just take piss. So the more we keep them on the toes, whenever they try to do anything or try to promote anything, is as long as there are people about that are going to debunk their claims, then we've got to keep them on the toes. That's a bit like we keep them like ballet dancers on the toes.
Exactly, and I suppose that's the perfect time to bring in Paul, because I think Paul's got something he can follow that up with. Good evening, Paul. How you doing, mate?
Hey guys, how are we doing?
We're all
right. Are you? Is that dog driving that car at the moment?
No, he just sits in it. He guards it. He likes it. He's got his own sofa. He's got his own car. He sits in it.
Just for those who can't see it, it's a bit of a strange comment that, but Paul's Skype profile picture is a picture of his dog sat in the driver's seat of his car, and it does look like he's driving it.
It looks like a rock-hard dog as well.
Oh, he's my boy. He's helped me through some tough times, that lad. Yeah, going back to this gas stuff, it's it's got to the point where it is really very simple to understand. Sometimes people complicate things, and I don't advocate anybody taking this stuff on, because I took it on because I was put in a position where I could take it on. But you've got family, you've got you might have a wife, or it might be you might have a husband. Don't take this on if it's going to wreck your family or stuff like that. Pay it, but learn your rights, because when this tipping, we were talking about that tipping edge, weren't we, Andy, last night?
Oh yeah.
We're very on that tipping point. Once this goes, if you understand it, then you can claim all this stuff back. Direct debit indemnity clawback is a godsend for this stuff. But sometimes some people have just got to take it as far as they can. I've taken it as far as I can, unless I become claimant. And as we were talking again last night, they're starting to price you out of the county court. £150 for an N244 form to summon somebody to court. What do you've got all these other stuff to pay. You're trying to pay for your kids, you're trying to pay for everything. It's a rat race. It's a difficult thing to do. But, just recently, there's been a bit of fun just testing the water on these things, because I've been often called free man of the land. This is actually basic commerce. There's nothing to do with free man. If you want to argue about no contracts and stuff like that, then despite it's true you don't have a contract, you're giving them far too much room to manoeuvre and not talk about the real issues, which is the bills of exchange, the Consumer Credit Act, and what they presume, which is commerce. Everything's commercial. So all these companies, now you see these little companies popping up. We can reduce your gas energy bills. We can save you money. Oh, can we? Well, that's very nice of you, but why are they all sprouting up? Why are the big six now backing off, and all these other companies sprouting up? They know there's something rumbling.
Right. So,
do you think many of these little companies are like subsidiaries of the big companies that are just sort of like there to try and grab you in?
In my opinion, yeah, of course they are. Yeah, it's the same with all the insurance companies. When they come down to the debt collectors, you've got the big debt collectors, the likes of Marston's, Jacobs, all this kind of stuff. You can see people how they promote themselves, say that where they live, what kind of money they're making. And then when they're not going anywhere, it's not worth the while anymore. They sell it to others, and it goes on and on and on. That's actually the trickle-down effect of what they say. For the economy, it's a trickle-down thing. Well, yeah, the big boys can't be bothered with that, so they give it to the smaller boys, and then so on and so on. And it trickles down to where it comes to the dogs, where you've got £1,000 debt being bought for a tenner or £100. They're the dogs. They're the ones who go around to the single mums and stand in front of the doorway and put the foot in the door and stuff like that. And people don't know the rights about that kind of thing either. It's not just gas, it's not just electric, it's not just utility bills, it's mortgages, it's everything. There's a massive lie that is going out there right now talking about this. And when you go and investigate these things, and you actually ask the professionals and ask the people, if they know anything about it, they clam up, and if they don't know anything about it, they haven't got a clue. What do you do? I've tried to every which way to try and settle that account, and people still want proof. Well, what do you want me to prove? I can't give you a piece of paper that says a judge said this, that and the other, because they didn't turn up. I asked for a judgment. Can I have a judgment that the bill has been paid? And he said no, the other party hasn't turned up. So that means I have to spend £150 of my own money to take that forward. And with everything that I had going on, I couldn't keep taking the time off work to keep going to court. If I could have not been working, but it doesn't work like that, does it? You're trying to learn these things and you're trying to move forward in life. You've still got stuff that you need to do, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, people say you've got no proof of an end result, but you explained to me where you are with the British Gas, I think it was, at the moment, and to me, them sending you the occasional letters saying, we strongly urge you to get in touch, is a bit of a result. And also the court have refused to hear any more warrants on your property, haven't they, which is a big sign.
Yeah, it all stemmed off from that first magistrate's hearing where the agent stood in the dock and he told everybody that I owed a £454 bill and that he was applying for a warrant. And I asked him what warrant were they applying for. And well, they wanted to fit pay-as-you-go meter, but they were applying for a forced entry warrant. So there's no point arguing they haven't got a right of entry. They have got a right of entry. I wouldn't argue about that, so I wouldn't waste my time. Because if I'm on holiday and my next door neighbour smells gas, I want somebody who has authority to break into my property and fix that gas leak. So I'm not going to argue with you about the rights of entry. However, I'm going to argue with you over the sections and the authority where you've got that, under what circumstances. And there's around about 5 sections of the Gas Act, which is a 127-page document, so you can tell just how much they write about this bollocks so that you don't find it. How many people do you know, Andy, Jason? How many people do you know who read a 127 Gas Act document? Nobody.
No, I don't know. Unless they're paid to do it.
No, I know a few people, and they're the people who've given me this information to go and research. And as it started to unfold, the gas warrant, the 5 sections, have a body of words, and it's all to do with bodies of words. You can take a 127-page document, and in every section, if it hasn't got a certain body of words, that section doesn't apply to what they're asking for. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
So the powers of entry, that body of words, are in 5 sections. It's all to do with pipes, fittings, escape of gas. Nothing to do with monetary. When you get to the pay-as-you-go gas meters, which are statutory, meaning you must require that to be fitted, because it's a consensual thing. Now when you say consensual, you go, oh Freeman, it's bollocks. I don't walk past B&Q and the B&Q manager come running outside, grab hold of me, throw me into B&Q, point to a hammer and some nails and say, buy them. Because the consensual thing is, I need a hammer and some nails, I'll go into B&Q. And they advertise them with big shiny signs saying, look at our new hammers and look at our nails. That's what they do, they entice you in. They can't force you. And it's the same principle with this pay-as-you-go meter. So there's no free man of the land rubbish there. It's your choice. You know, do I have steak or do I just have chips on its own? It's your choice. So the only sections they can apply for that is in an emergency situation where they need to check the pipes, the fittings, and if there's an escape of gas. If that's not what they're applying for, they cannot force entry. So therefore, if they now claim I still owe them money, let's go to a county court of equity, put your claim in, and we'll negotiate it and discuss it there. But in that first hearing, I was asked by the magistrate what a bills of exchange was. And before, because that's how I settled it, she did ask whether I had a bank statement showing money leaving my account to pay British Gas. And I said, no, I've settled it through the bills of exchange. And she said, bills of exchange? And before I could say anything, the legal clerk turned around and said, yes, ma'am, that's a civil remedy we don't deal with in this jurisdiction. So what he's just said in their language is I've offered cure. So now if you offer somebody a cure and they turn that down, what is going on? And the fact is that the way it is settled, this is right, stripping it right down to the bones of what the joint gyro credit check is. It is drawn on a third party. Somebody is paying me to settle my bill. Now, Jason, if I owe you, if you owe me £100, am I going to send you a cheque for £100 to pay me back?
Absolutely. Well, I hope not, anyway.
Well, I think you would hope so. If you owe me £100 and I'm going to send you the payment to settle the account, you would want that, wouldn't you? Because you wouldn't be paying it, I'd be paying it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. If when you put it like that, yeah, obviously.
That's what British Gas is doing, because the payment is being put into their bank account. They can't settle the account because they are not me, they are not the payee. So the fund is due to me. How do I discharge that? Well, they take up 2 positions on the bills of exchange and become the draw, which is the cash draw, their account, and they become the drawee. And they take that payment out and issue it under a non-commercial agreement to the payee, which is me. So there I have that payment on the bottom of my bill. I'm meant to be able to go to the post office, write Mr. Paul Webster, national insurance number, non-commercial agreement, sign and date it. That executes that document. They stamp the cheque, they stamp the bill, they put the cheque in the cash drawer and give me the bill as received. That's how it's meant to be discharged. But the post office has been, if it's ever, we've had it recognised as a cheque, but they said they can't cash that. That doesn't make sense. So there's something along the lines where the post office has just been, not legally trained people obviously are in there, but they're not trained to use bills of exchange. It's cash cheques, debits, that's all they're trained to use. So when you get a negotiable instrument, this is why Section 123 of the Consumer Credit Act is so important, because when you get a negotiable instrument, Section 123, the first 4 paragraphs tells you how you can't use it and discharge it, the negotiable instrument, until you get to paragraph 5. And it says none of this applies to a non-commercial agreement. So that means you can settle it with, you've got to understand how these people are trying to talk to you. You can now settle it with that valuable instrument. There's no three-man bollocks there. It's all straightforward commerce. And I can't show you proof of that because I've not got to the end of that. I've got to a certain point and they've run away. They won't engage with me. I've tried to engage. I rang their legal team and they won't put me through to them. They decided to ignore me. What am I going to do? Waste my energy, keep chasing them? They're the ones that claim I owe them money. I'm the ones that say, well, if I owe it you, let's settle it, let's sort it. Let's go to a court and we'll sort it out. But, what do they do if, by chance, this dickhead who's causing them a few problems produces something that creates British Gas versus Webster? Then, that's it for the corporations, isn't it? So they leave you in limbo because they know now, it's the ball's in your court, you're going to have to bring the fight.
Yeah, and do you think that this is the reason why they're pushing for prepayment meters, smart meters, direct debits? People pay 70 odd quid a month or whatever direct debit into their account. Do you think that this is why they're promoting that more and more?
They're promoting it more and more because if they can get smart meters in particular, which, the health issues behind smart meters, people should really start looking into these before they start thinking, hey, bloody hell, it's cold today, I'm 20 minutes from home, I can just tap my mobile phone and turn my heating on through my smart meter. Yeah, that's a great idea, but the health and safety issues that could be surrounding your children, yourselves, nobody wants to look into that. But the fundamentals of it is they can control it. They can shut your meter off. Pay as you go. If you don't put money over the counter and get your stick or your card, you're knackered, you don't have that energy, but it's yours. So you now need to know how to claim your right. Carry on as you're doing. But when I got pushed into a corner, and rather than have pay-as-you-go meters after what I was researching and what I was reading, at that time, did I have confidence in it? No, it's all brand new stuff, this. That's why I don't understand people attacking other people who has new information without looking at it and researching it. I've sat with professionals who can't tell me that this stuff is wrong, but I can't prove it because there are no court documents because they don't want to deal with this. The companies certainly don't. So it's up to me. Well, sometimes I like a rest as well. The amount of times people have said, let me know how you get on. Well, no, go and get yours and do it, or not, and just live your life. But learn it. Just learn what this stuff's all about. There's no magical mystery tour with this stuff. You just go and use your common sense. And when you start just getting called names and you're presenting actual acts and sections and parts, and people just keep calling you free man, it's very laughable. The amount of people that are doing that, and you just can't work it out. Are these people really not understanding it? Have they read it and don't understand it? Are they just paid to do this? Do they do it just for the laugh? You just don't know. But when I used to, many moons ago now, but if I sat around and just kept going through that and trying to keep showing it, as we all know, Kevin, or as I like to refer to him as Victim Eldrew, he gets very aggravated with people because He knows this stuff's right, and he wants to help people, but people are calling each other names. It's ridiculous. And if you get into arguments with these people, I've posted information and said, look, this is what it is, and it's just free man bollocks. And I thought, Jesus, are you solicitors by any chance? Who knows what these people are? I don't know what they get out of doing what they do, because the information's there to help people. I was asked a strange question the other day. Am I here to help people? No, I was here to help myself. But by helping myself, I found new information that people don't know. Why don't you go and have a look at it? Stop calling me names, you dickheads. It's basic stuff, this. 44 years old, I'm not going back to the high school playground with these idiots.
Yeah, it keeps coming up again and again. I mean, people seem to not be able to get out of this adolescent playground mentality. First of all, they'll say, well, how do you get away with that? When really they should be saying, well, how are they getting away with it on everybody? And the playground mentality, it just shows you that if a company sells £1,000 debt for £10, it just shows you the actual value of the product that they've given you.
There is nothing. It's debt. Well, how can you pay debt with debt? This is why years ago every borough, every local borough would forgive debt after 7 years, because debt is not conducive to a good economy. So if we are running a system that is actually promoting a bad economy, what the hell do we expect when they're saying, well, we've got to cut these austerity cuts and stuff like that? Most people I speak to, my friends and family, they don't understand what that means. They've not got time to go and look at that. In between bloody working and sleeping, they've got to try and fit Emmerdale in and, X Factor, Big Brother. There's a lot of different factors that are coming into these things. And, the childishness about, instead of trying to help people learn stuff, it just mesmerises me now. I don't get angry with it anymore, certainly, because my life got so much better when I just, you just have to laugh sometimes, because I would care less if I was wrong about this. But stop calling me names and come and tell me why I'm wrong. It's just madness. Yeah.
That I agree. The name calling is just, especially to someone like you, a poo-poo face.
They've got nothing else though, Jason. That's the problem. You try and present them with things to go and read, and then, as I said to a lad last night, who was the only lad who actually was a bit civil with me, and so I said, go and read it and ask me some questions. If you understand it better than me, tell me why. I said, because as far as I'm concerned, when I dumb it right down to the bare bones of it, what I understand it as, somebody's giving me a cheque to settle an account that they claim I owe them. When I look at the stuff, I don't owe anybody of it, because I'm under a non-commercial agreement. So that means somebody's trying to claim money off me without me owing them anything, but they won't go to the right place to actually, let's discuss it. Instead, they try and force entry and hold me to ransom for that payment. Is that not racketeering? Is that not theft? What's going on? If I can't ask these questions in a court because they won't go there, what is going on? Why are warrants being issued in the area of? Is that the car park? Is that the toilet? What's going on with these people? And why have we got police officers who are willing to arrest people, put them in cuffs, take the keys off them, let the gas man in to change the meter, he comes out, he de-arrests the man and hands his keys back? What kind of society thinks that is okay? And that's before we get into any of the bailiffs and the evictions and the fraudulent bloody mortgage scams that are going on. It's time people started to read this stuff, because I know it doesn't affect everybody. I know people who work bloody damn hard to make sure it doesn't affect them. But those people were working one job 5 years ago and lived a great life. Then people now working 3 jobs. Some people who've actually stood up for themselves have lost great jobs, worthwhile jobs, making a difference jobs, and they ended up delivering pizzas and things like that, just for standing up for the truth. And people want to sit around and call each other names. There's no, I'm not angry towards these people. It saddens me. it saddens me that it's not important enough for them, or it's not important enough that they can't talk about it sensibly, and they're purposely trying to dig people out, because you just can't, when somebody's standing under certainly what I believe to be true, nobody can prove, nobody has shown this to be wrong yet. So until I can only stand under truth, and truth will defend itself, I don't need to defend it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
got an interesting little nugget there being posted in the chat room, Paul, from Kevin, and he's just said that British Gas... Sorry?
I'm saying he's a geek.
British Gas are giving away free gas on the latest deal, but it's not really free. Why are they giving you it for free? The catch is that you need to have a smart meter installed. I see they're pushing them like crazy lately, aren't they?
But how can they afford to give it you free? Because they're already siphoning your funds anyway. Because if you go by direct debit, you never see a bill, and you never see a joint gyro credit check, and therefore you would never question what that is. It's what they do. They just take things away incrementally, very, very slowly. It's only 30 years ago that you had to actually go to a shop and pay for that bill with your paper bill. And I remember my mum going to the electric board with £400 cheque attached to her bill. What I know is a cheque, she thinks it's a paying-in slip. She's filled it out and signed it, and then she's put £400 to it. She has just paid twice. They got done for double dipping 30 years ago. They got a slap on the wrist. Nobody goes to jail with these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it wasn't a case of me making a crusade against them. They came after me. I was paying £60 a month direct debit whilst I was researching it, because I had so much going on with the property. I didn't have time, and I certainly didn't have the energy, until they started messing about with the payment plans, and they reduced it from £60 a month to £5 a month without telling me. When I realised it, I thought, oh, maybe I'm so much in credit, they don't like that kind of thing. Because I'm in so much credit, they've reduced the payments. They're actually doing their job, managing the account, you know. But no, it's not that. They then hit me with a £454 bill and said if they wanted it paying in 21 days. That was a letter, sorry. And I said, right, send me a paper bill, and I cancelled the direct debits. Because that was, two other payment plans came after that, and they messed them up as well. I was paying it, because as long as you offer to pay these people, it doesn't matter what they claim, you must pay them. I had a guy ring me once and told me that they would only accept £170 a month. By the time we finished that conversation, he came to £60, which I'd offered him when he told me it was 170. Because he kept going down, he kept seeing his manager, he kept giving me these new deals and all this kind of stuff. And I said, I'll pay you 60. Please, you're going to waste your time as much as mine. If you don't just accept the 60 now, there's nothing else you can do. I've made the offer. That's it. As long as you're making the offer, it doesn't matter what they demand. If you cannot challenge this, how I've done it or how other people have done it, if you can't challenge it, pay what you can afford. Learn the rest whilst you do it, or when you can. But pay what you can afford, as long as you make an offer. It doesn't matter what they want, because if they go to a court and they say, we want to know your incomings and outgoings, you tell them to fuck off. You ask them for their account number and sort code, and I'll facilitate payments. And once you make that first payment, and you keep a regular payment going, they're going nowhere. They're not going to court, they're not doing fuck all. And people need to learn that, because it's all about fear, this stuff, at the end of the day. They think you should be shitting scared. And believe me, I've stood in a court and shot like a shitting dog. It's not a pleasant experience. It's not a place for us. County court is not for us. It's for business negotiations only. So when you go into that court, you're not seen as anything other than a corporation, the representative of a corporation. Normally you would take a solicitor and let them represent your corporation. Now you don't have a say, so when you try and represent yourself, you're not legally trained. So then they go, well, we don't recognise you, we don't hear you, because you're not legally trained. It's got nothing to do with you standing there saying I'm a man. You're not legally trained, so they don't have to listen to you. So then they just presume you haven't turned up. They play all these kinds of tricks, and you have to actually rebut every trick. And they've got a lot of tricks.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, go on, Andy.
I was just saying, a courtroom is not what an awful lot of people imagine it to be. It's a place where magic is practiced, and they have their own particular brand of magic, and they try and keep it very secret what they do in there. And if you can start to get into that, you can start to unlock the secrets, and you can become less fearful and kind of take your own way forward there. Is that how you've been finding it, Paul?
For me, I needed to dumb their language down into my own language to understand it first. And it's basically trying to read what is not there. It's like if they write legislation saying, if it is a Monday that ends in Y, you can do this, but if it is a Tuesday that ends in Y, you can't do it. But if it is a Thursday that ends in Y, you can do it. If it's a Wednesday that ends in Y, you can do it. But not if it's a Saturday. But if it's a Sunday, and they go on like this. But then you see the common denominator, that everything ends in Y, so you can or you can't do it. Does that mean you've got a choice? Because that's what they're saying. They're contradicting themselves all the way through the week. And that's what we do with the Acts. That's why people read part of an Act. I've done it myself. I read section 123, Consumer Credit Act 1974. I read to number 4, and I rang my mate up and said, I think you're wrong about this, mate. It's telling me that I can't use it. He went, what? He said, where have you read up to? I said, number 4. He said, read number 5. I went, right, I'm with you. Non-commercial. This is all presumption of commerce. I was telling Andy about Ben Gilroy's High Court order, what the lads over there in Ireland got. Yeah. The High Court order stated that a circuit court, county court, has no jurisdiction over non-rateable properties. So all these warrants of possession for evictions that the courts are ordering, they're presuming to have jurisdiction over commercial properties. Nobody's standing before them and showing that it's a non-rateable property. Nobody's showing them that. This also then extends over to council tax, as I was telling you last night. What these people have done to themselves, and all we're doing is showing .gov.uk. This is all commercial stuff. There's no free man of the land stuff. You know what I mean? It seems like chalk and cheese to me.
Well, I saw you were getting trolled on Facebook the other night, and I was just watching it and kind of having a bit of a laugh, because the people that were trolling you were being complete dicks. And they didn't have an argument. They just said, you're talking rubbish, it's all Freeman rubbish, you're going to get people in trouble, this is Freeman of the Land bullshit. And you kept explaining to them, it wasn't Freeman of the Land, it's acts and statutes, it's the bills of exchange, we're working with their tools to defeat them, but they weren't having any of it, they just wanted to waste your bloody time.
Well, sometimes it's nice to gauge where some people are at, but the fact is, the genuine people of where they're at, they're interested in learning about it because it's fantastical, Andy. Mm-hmm. You know, so that can't be true. Let me look at that. That's what a normal person does. They don't just call them names. You're either an idiot or you're paid, or you just like being a crank and a bell end. I don't know what label you want to call them, because I don't like labelling people, but somebody who keeps doing stuff like that, there's either something wrong with them, or they enjoy doing it, or they're paid, or there's some incentive for them to do it. Because I know for a fact that if any of those people have got an elderly grandmother who, come winter time, refuses to put their heating on because they can't afford to pay for their gas, and their grandmother dies, what are they doing when this stuff could actually change that? And why not go and read it? Why call people names? That's what upset me. I remember my nan not putting the heating on. Why, it's bloody freezing in here now, why have I not got the heating on? She's wrapped up like like an igloo in blankets upon blankets and duvets. So put the heating on. No, I can't. Can't afford it. And now I could have gone, bloody hell, no, let me sort that. Let me take this for you. And like I said, I cannot, in black and white paper from courts, prove that I won this. I can only say I got left in limbo. I tried to remedy it. The court clerk, give me the court of a seal of approval for that. when he said remedy, cure, boom, I didn't need to hear anymore. I knew there was teeth in this. And that is the reason why they're not going to touch a county court unless I take them. And then if they don't turn up, they're going to have to turn up, but they're going to have to have a plan to try and get around it. And if you complicate it by talking about things like what I was saying before, Andy, about contracts, if you stand before a judge and say, I have no contract with this utility company, so I'm not liable to pay. If a window cleaner took you to court and said, Judge, I've cleaned his windows for a year, I put the bill in and he won't pay me. And then you stand up and say, well, I've no contract with him, so I'm not liable. The judge will say, did you accept his services and has he cleaned your windows? Yes. Then pay the man. Doesn't matter about contracts. Doesn't matter about contracts, so why argue about it? You're playing into their hands because they know what the remedy is. And the remedy is the fact that somebody sends you payment. If they go to a court, are we going to find out where that payment comes from? At the last, are we going to find out where that payment comes from? And what is it? Why is it? Why is somebody paying my gas for me? I'd like to meet them. I'll buy them a Yorkie or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to know what the ultimate answer is, and I think you're doing a great job in pushing towards finding that answer. Have you got your next step planned out, Paul, or do you want to keep your powder a bit dry on that one?
Well, we're keeping the powder a bit dry. We had a meeting last week to how we're going to start moving forward. And like I said, with everything that's come out in the last few weeks, it just all falls in place. It's that, the fuse is lit now. With everybody else what are doing things, I'm not coming along and saying we're coming and we're going to do this and we're going to change anything. That's nothing to do with it. Personally, what I'm doing is none of us have ever had a summer off. So we've all decided that we're going to take this summer off, and as we took this summer off, more information's come out because we've been free to actually take information. We've always been either working or involved in something. So now we've all got a chance to recuperate and say, right, after summer, this is what we're going to do, and this is our first plan of action. So I'm not worried about any of this anymore because these people have put themselves in this position. All we've done is ask questions of them. Again, Andy, when you go to a court for the first time, like I did, and the basis of it was somebody wanted me to sell my property, but I said, I don't care what she does with her property, because it was 50-50. I said, I don't wish to sell mine, but she can do what she likes with. I asked one question, what jurisdiction is the judge claiming to stand under to have authority over me and my property? What jurisdiction? 4 minutes later, I was surrounded by armed response police looking for a breach of the peace. I'm stood in the court saying I don't want to sell my property, with 2 armed police in front of me, 2 behind me, 1 either side of me. That sounds fantastical. People thought I was full of shit with that. Yet I've got dozens of witnesses who were there who saw it, and they thought I was going to commit a breach of the peace, and they thought I might have wanted to make us citizens arrest of a judge, which is what a free man allegedly might do. That's why you keep getting called free man in courts when you're talking about this stuff. And people who go and talk about contracts, you play into their hands with that shit. You've really got to just play it simple. It's too simple. Somebody's giving you money to balance an account that they say you owe them. That's backward. It doesn't make sense.
It does seem so. You're taking some time out. Is that just you, or is there quite a few of you that are taking time out over the summer? Did you say you're having this summer off?
Yeah, there's a few of us taking some summer off because we've been working on this stuff for a long time now, and because of all different things going on, normal life type stuff and work, you don't always get to meet up at the right times. But right now we've all met up and we've all got together at the right time, we've all brought stuff to the table, and we're now just putting it in order to just crack open the lid, and once the lid's off, that's it, we're done. It's going to be amazing times. It's amazing times, but there's nobody doing anything wrong. Even the people who are challenging the courts and not having the right remedies, for whatever it is they're doing. I don't know what everybody's attacking. People attacking parking tickets, people refusing to pay parking tickets, speeding fines, TV licences. All over the country, people are starting to say no to doing stuff. Let them crack on with it, because each individual man and woman, whatever they do in their life, especially if they're trying to expose truth or something that's you can actually show that it's completely not true. It balances, and I think, like I said, I think we've got to that tipping point, Andy, because everybody I speak to, it gets less and less awkward to have conversations because people know a little bit about something,
It is it is quite refreshing when you get a little bit less blank look than you used to get off people. I know I've had it myself. I've been the nutter in the pub for years, and instead of the nutter on the bus, I'm the one in the pub, and the reactions I've had from people, anything from just mock disbelief, ridiculing you, to people getting outright angry because, well, you don't pay your bill, that's going to put my bill up.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I get now, what I've noticed more, is that I'll get people saying to me, do you know, I saw that on news and I thought of you. I thought of you. You told me, you said that, didn't you? And that's when you know that somebody, even just that little bit, they just took that little bit of notice. And my mother-in-law's terrible for it. She's always.
Sorry, I get something similar, Jason. I've got an old mate who's a retired train driver, and he usually, when I tell him something new, don't be ridiculous. That like the Rothschilds are wonderful philanthropists, and then a couple of weeks later, he brings me a load of press clippings from the Times that he's found stuff backing up exactly what I've said.
You nearly made me choke then when you said the Rothschilds are wonderful philanthropists. That's almost as funny as Saudi Arabia being a member of the UN Human Rights Council.
Oh, they're chairing it, aren't they?
Yep.
The world is completely upside down, and Google has taken Palestine off the maps, and it's now called Israel.
Madness, isn't it?
You're getting reports in the newspaper that Israel has warned Celtic supporters about having a Palestinian, because they fly a Palestinian flag. They've got Celtic supporters always take a big Palestinian flag to games. You never see it on TV because they won't show it, but they do. Celtic supporters have been warned about that.
I think one of the funniest things I've seen this week was the ISIS and the IRA are going to team up. I thought that was one of the funniest things. I thought, God, how desperate are you people now that you are slamming these two completely, utterly different groups? But, well, I suppose they might have had, allegedly, neither confirm nor deny, allegedly might have had involvement in similar allies, as the UK might be a common denominator between ISIS and IRA.
But that's it, innit? That is it. And I did point out a few weeks ago how the IRA had started to pop up again in the media. I did point out a few weeks ago, I can't remember, we had a guest on, and I said, have you noticed about these new stories about the IRA are coming out? And then the pairing with ISIS, it's just so easy to work out what's going to happen and what they're going to do.
Yeah, but for you saying that it's so easy, then you see, I meet people who go, oh God, that's going to be terrible. That'll be terrible. Won't it be like Manchester all over again and all that kind of stuff? These people, some people have suffered terribly, but you can't keep sitting around and allowing them to play these games. Something's got to be done. I'm not the type of person who's going to walk down to London, wave a placard. It's not in my nature. I work how I work. I aggregate information, I look at it, use what I can for myself, but I always pass all the information on. some people will post that, I got the other day, this is a spoof site. And I said, well, there is no source to this particular article. I said, but I've had conversations with family and friends about things that this article mentions that might make my friends and family think. So I'll use that information how I want to use it. If you don't want to use it, crack on. But, I have my shit covered. Leave me alone with that stuff. It's the same when people tell me this is 6 years old, this article. Well, yeah, but it's new information to somebody. I guarantee I speak to at least one person every day who hasn't heard something. Something I drop new information about all the time. I told a nurse the other day that a gas, water and electric were free. We went into it and she actually had an understanding of it. She went, I'm going to check that out. And that's all you want. Don't say I'm a dickhead, don't say I'm talking shit, don't call me a free man, just say, I'll check that out. If you don't want to check it because Emmerdale's on, then it doesn't matter. It's a seed. Some seeds grow, some seeds don't.
Absolutely, yeah. And you slip it in more and more in conversation, you do find yourself. I mean, I went yesterday and picked up a new car, and the guy that were dealing with me were talking about his daughter who got she got some motor neurone.
Yeah.
Motor neurones disease, but it were a motor neuron sort of like type illness. And I did say to him, just look at CBD oil. That's all I'll tell you to do. Just go home and type in CBD oil. I'm not going to make you any promises. Just do it, and that's all I'll say to you. And you plant little seeds like that, and you just don't. It'll if 1 out of every 10 sprouts into something, then that's how we're going to win this.
Yeah, you've just got to see what happens. People will do what they do. People will say what they say. I mean, there was a time when I was at work, and when I first started all this stuff, especially when all the police got involved, I ended up with time off work. I was having a breakdown, didn't realise it at the time until it was pointed out to me. Once it was pointed out to me, I could deal with it and start getting myself better. But when I was having the breakdown, I went back, first day of work, and my line manager says, some people in this place where they think that you're a nutter, and they turn and walk the other way. I went, thanks for that, that's just what I want to hear after 3 months off with a breakdown, that everybody thinks I'm a nutter, nice one. Yeah, none of these people can ever debate me on this. I've had really funny, witty people try and take the piss jokingly about this stuff, because when you're working in a certain environment, banter can become very gallows humour in certain environments, and we work in a gallows humour environment. It's very funny, it's very witty, but it can be very cutting. But the stuff that I was learning about, they've never heard of, and they're intelligent enough people to not criticise something that they don't know about without going looking. And when these people have gone and looked, they've now come and asked me questions. Those same people who thought I was a nutter now sit next to me and say, so Webby, what do you know? You might as well say, well, ask me what I don't know, because I know a lot. You need to be a bit more specific. That's not me being big-headed or anything like that. I have time to research and read all different kinds of stuff. My friends and family are very limited to the information that they get. It's in between adverts. It's from television. It's from mainstream media. It's from, the newspapers. That's where I was 10, 15 years ago. It's been a slow breakdown, but in my opinion personally, I had to lose everything. They stole everything material from me, whilst I stood there and said, but you can't do this. When you see case law put before a judge that applies to your case in regard to mortgages being securitised and sold to SPVs, and the judge actually mentions, yes, we have heard of the SPVs, straight away that judge must say, yes, you're going to have to prove this man owes you money, or at least prove you haven't sold it. But no, she turned case law over that showed that, and said, I take the bank's word for it. What's going on in the courts? I can take you and Jason to court, Andy, and say that these two hooligans owe me £5,000, and the judge is going to say, pay Webby. I believe him. Is that how it works? No. But when the banks are involved, it seems to. So what's going on between the executive and the judiciary? Are they collaborating? Are they just making mistakes? Who knows? We can't get any answers because you're priced out of going and asking them, and then when you go to High Court, you get thrown out without merit because you didn't name a building as a defendant. I'm sorry, but if you name a defendant, aren't you meant to be able to cross-examine that building? Not in commerce, apparently.
You're very quiet again, Andy.
Oh, I'll be very quiet because I had my mic muted. Thanks for that, Jason. No, that is absolutely ridiculous, and we've seen. We haven't seen any hard documented evidence, but we've got a lot of reports from people who've been into the courts. One that comes to mind particularly was Mike Sinclair, who was on a few weeks ago, and when he put his case to the judge, he said no one can find fault in my case, but the judge actually said, do you realise what would happen to the mortgage market if I ruled in your favour?
Yep.
And so they're protecting that industry, and it's quite clear for anyone to see who cares to scratch the surface.
They have to protect it. They have to protect it because they've committed so many what they would call errors, because they don't make mistakes, because mistakes can be punished, they make errors. This is all this stupid language. You know, it's not a coincidence that the English language is the language of commercial law, because we have 8 different words, 10 different words to describe one thing, whereas other languages will have one word to describe 8, 10 different things. So it's so manipulative. We were having a conversation the other day about, now this is where another thing that says, oh, it's free man of the land. Are you the driver of this vehicle? What is a driver? It's not a man or a woman, it's a person. What's a person? It's a corporation. It's a legal entity. So a driver needs a driver's license. What would he need a driver's license for? Well, it's to operate a motor vehicle on public roads for monetary gain. So that would be a taxi driver, bus driver, coach driver, delivery driver. Well, hang on a minute, I'm going to Asda. So I'm not driving, I can't be driving them because I'm not earning money on the road. I'm actually, what word do I use? Do I use the word travelling? Do I use the word going? I can't use the word motor vehicle because that means I might be admitting to making money. This is where the complications are. And if you don't know how to correctly say it in their terms, and I say body of words, it's all about body of words. Some of the arguments we've found that they've written legislation that we can show they've purposely hidden in acts that you wouldn't expect to find it in, but they can justify it. And when people think about what these people are doing legally, they also have to understand that Mao, Stalin and Hitler and Churchill did never, ever did nothing illegal. They always did it legally because some bloke sat around the table and wrote legislation and said that's law. And how do they get everybody to obey that law? They indoctrinate people through the system. They get people to control that system, to ask rhetoric and ask certain things. If you've paid a fine, you have consented that you want to pay a penalty charge notice that should be paid. Not must be paid, not has to be paid, it should be. Because there's a penalty charge for somebody throwing some rubbish on the ground. And they hold it up, they virtually hold the ticket up and say, there's a penalty charge notice for that, you just dropped that, do you want to pay it, what's your name? And then they go, oh, it's John Smith, where do you live? Oh, well, yeah. We signed that, yeah? What are you doing? Why have you just given details to this man? Listen to policeman, and then you've just gone and signed a ticket. Your signature's the most valuable thing you've got in this economy, and you've just agreed to pay a fine. What are you doing? Yes, you're a tramp for throwing rubbish on the floor, but people have dropped rubbish by accident and then felt they've had to give the details. Once they've consented and they've signed it, the judge then adds a £40 victim surcharge. There is no victim until there's a signature. They can't create a victim until there's a signature. So who's the victim? The person who saw the rubbish hit the ground, were they offended that much that a Quavers packet hit the ground when somebody pulled some change out of his pocket? Is it the ground that's offended? Is that the victim? Is it the person who's got to then write the ticket? He feels that he's a victim because he's got to use his ink and his energy to write the ticket. What's going on?
You see, what we're trapped in, Paul, is we're trapped in this where people make when they're in that situation, they make an evaluation. Now, if I stand my ground and don't say this and don't say that and don't say the other, it's going to probably take up quite a lot of my time, and I'm probably going to have to, after even go to court at some point, and I'll probably get arrested, for obstruction or some ridiculous trumped-up charge. So what people are evaluating in their head is giving and paying early the 35 quid. Is your time more valuable than that? The time that it's going to take you, and the expense that's going to be incurred afterwards. And that's the trap. That's the trap that we're in.
That's what. Without being derogatory, that's what ignorant people fall into. People who haven't bothered looking at what their rights are. Some clown in a costume comes over and claims that you have committed an offence. It doesn't matter. Jason, if I slap you across the face, I've committed a crime. I'm being arrested. If I steal from you, I've committed a crime. I'm being arrested. If I damage your property, I've committed a crime. I'm being arrested. If I called you a bell-end bell-whiff, I've offended you. Oh, there's an offence against that. I need to fine you. What's your name? Fuck off. Where do you live?
Yeah, right, okay, so but what I'm trying to say is people make an evaluation at that time.
That's what you're right. That's what they do. They go through all that panic stage and that fear stage, and it's easier to pay it. That's what they rely on.
That's right, and that's the trap. That's the trap that we're in.
That's it. That's exactly what people fall into every day. I've had so many messages. Webby, I've just got this parking ticket, and I send 3 words back: private or council. Private, I'm an Asda, and I put 1 word back: bin.
Exactly.
Don't interact with these people. Don't try and. I had somebody who come in and said, "Yeah, I showed them." I says, "Oh, why? What have you done?" He went, "Yeah, I rang them up and gave them a load of bollocks and shouted at them and effed at them and blah blah blah." I went, "Have you paid?" He went, "Yeah." I went, "So you did all that?" He says, "Yeah, but I felt better." I said, Would you not feel better that you didn't bother getting angry and just ignore it and then go to a pub and watch some football or something like that?"
Yeah, but still have 35 quid in your pocket.
Exactly. It's madness what they've got the nation of this people to do. We patrol each other. We call each other names. We stop each other trying to say, "Hey, look at this new information." Reminds me of a meme. It's been floating around for ages where there's a flock of sheep and one's a black sheep, and the speech bubble says, "I think the man and the dog are working together." I think even David Icke used this analogy. It's been around that long.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of the sheep say, "Oh, fuck off, Trev, with your conspiracy theories." It's madness, because that's what I had to do. I was pointing stuff out to workers who I work with, friends and family, and they don't get it. And I know people close to me who say, "I don't believe in what you're doing, because if I use that gas, I should pay for it." Yes, that's a belief system. That's an ethic that's been born into you, so you can survive in this system. But the system is actually more pro-you, but not until you actually claim your rights. And you've got to know your rights to actually claim them. And like I said, they write your rights in so many bollocks. You've got to come up with the right kind of bollocks to actually trigger them. It's like talking to the keymaster in riddles. You've got to find the right riddle, and the words have got to be in the right places. They play magic games with you. As far as they're concerned, they call it ignorance of the law. I call it ignorance of language, because you can say, "Yeah, I'm the driver," and you've just said, "Well, I'm using the road for money to the game." That's the difference between what our English language is and the legalese commercial law language.
Brilliant points, very well made there, Paul. And
I'm David Halpin. I'm a retired orthopedic and trauma surgeon living in Devon. And I'm only too pleased to discuss things with Jason and Andy at Raconteurs News.
Thank you for that, David, and welcome back to Raconteurs News. We've got a great lineup for you this evening. You've already heard the first hour if you were along in time with myself, Jason, and Paul Webster. And we've got just under an hour left to go, after which time we'll be hearing from Dr. Rock. Now, Doc's busy on thespian duties tonight, so we'll be getting a pre-record show, which, as far as I can gather, it's from the Harlequin Festival that he was at, so I'm really looking forward to hearing that. We've already had 2 great shows out of that festival that Doc was at. I'm looking forward to hearing the third one, so that'll be along at 9 o'clock, but back to tonight. Are you back, Jason and Paul?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm back, well, you can see me.
I can see you. I just say that for the benefit of the listeners who can't see that I can see you.
You see my boy.
So
I'm on the wrong PC tonight for the video, so sorry about
that. Oh, no worries, mate. No worries. So yeah, we covered quite a broad area. I mean, have you got something different you want to go into in the second hour, Paul?
I'll follow your lead, Andy. It's like I said. I know you was struggling for somebody to come on tonight, and I said, well, there's no point just keep repeating what I'm doing, because it is. I know it's hard for people to do and maybe understand, but it is very simple. The remedy for it is very simple. As long as you keep it simple, you've got a chance, but you've got to be able to have the time, you've got to understand the argument enough to be able to articulate the remedy. And a lot of people can understand it, but they fall down in articulation. That's no detriment to them. It's because they write it that way. You've just got to get an understanding of it and be able to speak confidently in your way. You know, that sometimes that involves a lot of swear words for people. I love swear words.
It's nonsense, isn't it, Paul? It really is nonsense. So really, what you're saying is, well, my philosophy anyway is that you've got to make sure that everything's okay where you are, in your own little world, in your own little circle. You know, everything at home. You don't want this interfering in your relationships and stuff like that, do you?
No, that's your most important thing. Your family life, your kids. I am fortunate. My daughter's old enough to look after herself. She's 22 now. She doesn't live with me. She lives with a mum who I'm great friends with. You know, these are family and friends who I want to help out. You know, so I've not got that responsibility. I come home and my dog looks at me and says, "Is it dinner time, Dad?" There you go, there's your dinner, son. That's it. That was the responsibility I had. And it didn't come from anything other than what I was going through with the property. So it was like, it just all fell into place. And, you know, it didn't kill me. And I've come back so much stronger, and I understand it so much simpler, that I can explain it simpler. And I don't go off talking about things I don't know about, because that would be ridiculous. Plenty of people do it. But this gas warrant stuff, it's too simple. You can split the warrants apart. One of the things that I saw was a panorama programme a couple of months back, and it used videos of Kev Marks and Wes Ahmed's.
And mine.
Eh?
And mine.
Well, they made it look like they broke into Wes's and fitted a pay-as-you-go meter, which never happened. But what they did say on that programme, they didn't tell lies, but they didn't tell the truth. They said the utility companies can apply for a warrant of entry and fit a pay-as-you-go meter. They haven't told you any lies, they told you the truth. They can apply for a warrant of entry. But then we need to push the warrants apart and say, only under these conditions can they apply for a warrant of entry, which are pipes fitted to escape the gas. Now, they can fit a pay-as-you-go meter because they've got a statutory warrant, because they're not only legal, they are qualified to do so. But that requires your consent. You must say, can I have that meter? And they'll go, yes, by all means. If you say, fuck off, I don't want that meter, they have to go, yes, by all means. That's how simple it is. And if people want to complicate that argument and then say they've followed a method that they've imagined on the internet, because I do not describe anything I do as method. I tell you what I did. This is what happened. These were my results. I can't say it any simpler than that.
Yeah, it is. It is, when it comes down to it, the simplest ways are the best, and most things should be simple anyway, shouldn't they? We all know right and wrong, and we all know, what's good and what's bad. So,
well, Jason, if it's not simple, in my opinion, it's not correct, because you're giving them room to manoeuvre. They can be pointing at the left-hand corner of the table where that piece of paper is, and you're pointing in the middle of the table saying, I'm arguing about this. And when you go to these courts, it doesn't matter what they're arguing about. You worry about your case. You worry about what's in your case. Don't worry about what's in theirs. They're talking about something. Well, you want to talk about this. Well, if you've not hit the right body of words that the judge needs to interject on, then they'll just keep tapping that. And it's all about rebuttal. Everything is on presumption in these kangaroo courts. It's ridiculous. And more and more people now are standing up for themselves because they're pissed off. The Brexit shit at least showed something, that there's some kind of disgruntled masses going on in this country. They might not know which way to look or what to do yet, but you show them where they're being ripped off. Are people being ripped off through gas, water and electric? Yes, they are. Are people being ripped off through mortgages, through interest rates, or through job losses, they're losing the properties, and courts are issuing warrants of possession with no jurisdiction just because you aren't using the right kind of words? That's what's happening. Because they can legally do it if you don't show them why they can't do it. So it's all based on presumption. So imagine how many presumptions when they write a 127-page document that talks absolute bollocks, and you've got to try and make sense out of it. And if you're not legally trained, you're not meant to know. You're not meant to know that. And I fortunately had somebody who showed me not the full act. They told me what the act was, but they said, this is all you need to know. Do you understand what this concept is? Yes, I do. It was that simple. Why complicate things? Does everybody not get up in the morning and think of an easy life? I want an easy life today. I want an easy buy. I want everything to go my way. Well, sometimes you have no choice to stand up. Yeah. You have no choice. And like I said, I wouldn't have gone looking for this. I've always kept myself under the radar. And whilst I was researching it, I was paying payment plans, 3 payment plans. But it was just seemed to be destined that these people were going to fuck me over by making mistakes, their own mistakes. So I challenged it, and then we went through the courts. They did what they did. They never turned up. There's no warrants issued. They won't listen to any more. They can only go to a county court, and if they do that, they've got to prove that I owe them money, and I know they can't prove that.
But you're very quiet again, Andy.
So, and the beauty of that is, Paul, that you've tried to get them in court and they just don't turn up. Which
the district judge was there. It was the same judge that went with me mate who you met at BCG, Andy. Mm-hmm. It was the same judge, and the court clerk who said yes, it's a civil remedy. He was the court clerk for my mate that day as well. And he said, I believe this man's appeared before you before, sir, and you threw the warrant application out. And he said, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do today. And I put my hand up and I said, excuse me, I said, I think you'll find that it was me that they had the last warrant thrown out before district judges had, the judge. It was very poetic when you've gone through this stuff and you've stood there and you have shut like a shitting dog because you were challenging authority that you have been taught all your life has authority over you. And all of a sudden you're testing that authority because what you're reading and how are you interpreting that is showing that they don't have authority. So the basics is, if you're wanting to get over a fence and people are telling you it's electrified, How do you know it's electrified at that point without touching it? It's that temptation. It's temptation. I could get out of it if we get over that 6-foot fence. But it's electrified, is it? Who knows? Should I try it? Should I test it? Nobody wants to do it. But when it comes to you, and they're saying they're going to do this, they were going to put pay-as-you-go meter in if I didn't pay them straight away for a payment plan that they messed up 3 times. Thought, do you know what, let's go for it, let's try it. And I got the time off, I managed to go and challenge them, and then they run away. So, how can you say that I've not done anything? That it's ridiculous. But I can't prove it. It's hearsay. It's hearsay. I'm telling you, Andy, I'm telling you, Jason, this is what I did. You either believe me or don't. Honestly, with no disrespect to either of you, I like you both, but I don't give a flying fuck. I'm telling you this is what I did, and this is what happened, and this is where I'm at. So I've not paid for my gas for 5 years, but I've tried to settle the account over that 5 years, and they won't talk to me since 2 years ago. I rang Staines, Middlesex, where the head office was, and I wanted to speak to legal. They would not put me through. But they asked me to ring back in 15 minutes, and I rang back, and they said they are reviewing my account as we speak, and we'll be in touch. That was July 2014. What more can I do? The only thing I can do now is to prove, in speech marks, how this works, is to go to county court and summons them. So I put money up front and I take time off work again. I'd had enough. I wanted time out. I knew what was working. I knew how the system was working. I thought, it's time that I had some time to myself. It's time with my family. It comes about like that. That's why I don't advocate people to do this, because it takes a lot of your time. Certainly mentally, you do a lot of thinking. You do a lot of thinking with this stuff, because you're almost trying to solve a riddle, because it's written in plain English, but it doesn't mean what you necessarily think it means, and you've got to then, break that down. We had that conversation as well, didn't we, Andy?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, something just occurred to me as a way of perhaps giving people a little bit of a mental picture. That day that yourself and your good friend were in court, I'd just like to invite people to imagine how good that first pint of yours and your mates tasted when you got out of court and into the pub, and think on that.
Well, do you know what, man? When we come back, the pint was great, but it still left us with so many questions, because it was like when my mate went for himself, we wanted to work out, because we're all for trying to make this stuff easy for people. Because when you say, it's in conjunction with the Bills of Exchange Act and Consumer Credit Act, even just the Gas Act, the Bills of Exchange Act is big. So do you need to read it all? Somebody does, and if somebody understands it, somebody who comes along might only use a certain section of that Bills of Exchange Act. Do they need to read the full Act? If somebody who knows the full Act and say, hey, you only need this section, research that, and you make the connections where you understand that concept for that section, you don't need to know the full Bills of Exchange Act. You just need to know where you sit in it. How does it apply to you? What body of words applies to you? The Gas Act, 127-page document, you needed to find 5 sections that have a body of words, powers of entry. Aidy was facing the prospect of reading the full 127-page Gas Act. I said, try copy and pasting the Gas Act into Word and type in the search bar, powers of entry. And he gave him the sections. And he went and took that Act and got it printed and laminated and highlighted those sections ready to present to somebody legally trained, and nobody turned up. He was right, he was there for it, he was ready to go, and he said, he come out of that place, we went for a pint, he says, I feel like I've lost. I said, what do you mean? He said, I was so up for it. He said, I thought I was going to do this. He said, I thought I was going to put them in so much trouble that they were going to panic. I said, well, you would have if they'd have turned up. He said, well, it's because they didn't turn up. He said, this has like been building up all week. He says, and this morning, he said, I've been to the bathroom 6 times, You know, he said he built himself up all for this, and then they don't turn up. And now they've left him in limbo, which is what they did with me, which is what they did with our other mate, who all used the same bundle. We never changed the bundle. We just used the same argument and the same bundle. And once you have invited them to come and check the health and safety of the supply by appointment, and then explained that you don't require a pay-as-you-go meter, their hands are tied. You've just informed them, and you've informed the court, because you've got a copy in your bundle showing the letter you sent to the utility company to say, book an appointment. Book an appointment and we'll sort it out. Well, my gas agent was brilliant. He stood in the dock under oath and stated that there was nothing wrong with the supply. We checked it when we read the meter. My meter's outside. So we checked it when we read the meter. Thank you, we're in the wrong jurisdiction. Take us to county court and let's discuss it. Nope, we're going to run off.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Paul. We've just got a comment in here from Owensy in the chat room. Welcome back, Owensy, saying that legalese is a minefield, and indeed it is, but it is so similar to crossing a minefield in one way, because if you want to cross a minefield safely, you need to know where all the mines are. And if you know where the mines are, you can cross it quite safely. But if you just walk through a minefield and just stamp on the ground and see if anything blows up, you probably ain't going to get to the other side. So it really, knowledge is the way to conquer that minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, with the legalese, you need to just flip that analogy slightly. Instead of knowing where the mines are, you need to know where the mines aren't. And Section 3 of the Local Government Finance Act, which talk about dwellings. Now, dwellings in that section, they claim that all properties are dwellings. Now, that's commercial and non-commercial. But in that section, which pertains to council tax, I might add, it states, the section about hereditaments, it states that it is not shown on any, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting, but it's not shown on, it is not shown, nor required to be shown at this time, that any property is exempt from non-domestic ratings. Right, so what is non-domestic ratings? That's a mine. What is the opposite to where the mine isn't? Well, it's commercial. So let's change non-domestic to what it is, which is commercial. So now it is not shown, or required to be shown, any property to be exempt from commercial ratings. So any property. So it's not required, nor is it shown, to tell you that your non-domestic, your non-commercial property is exempt. That's their play on words. Now, if you don't find the right body of words to say that to them, they can still fuck you over legally, and that's why these council tax courts have been so corrupt. That's why they are not court. That's why they are private star chambers, hired for the day, judge hired for the day, to rubber stamp council tax liability forms that don't exist because you don't turn up. Now people have started turning up, they're getting twisted inside and out. Personally, I know a guy who's got a certain court wrapped up in so many different things. They're apologising. Northampton County Court actually sent him £400 compensation. Now, Northampton County Bullshit Warehouse has no judges, no solicitors, nobody legally trained. It's a paper warehouse, rubber stamp. That's what they do, get a summary judgment from Northampton. That's all they do. I wrote to Southampton, brought it to the county court, 2-hour hearing. They didn't want to hear about me. They'd listened to evidence of debt. Now, the body of evidence for a debt. Can you prove debt with a statement of what they believe to be true and an application form for a bank account that I admitted I applied for? Can you prove debt from that? Just those two pieces of evidence. No, you can't. So I had, this overdraft that you're claiming, I can show you where this money was created, because you need to just look at the Bank of England quarterly printouts for the creation of money from credit being monetised for your worth. Right, well, that's where it's coming from. And plus, under the European Parliamentary Directives, the interest rates that I paid on the overdraft pays for an insurance policy that you must take out as a trustee of me whilst creating monetising my credit. You must take this out. So you triggered that insurance policy when I defaulted. So in other words, if I get into an overdraft again and I need that insurance policy, my insurance policy will probably go up because it's been claimed on. But they don't tell me that. They just pretend that I still owe them this money. So when you ask them for a valid reason, I'm willing to pay you. If I owe you this, I'm willing to pay you. Please provide me with this evidence. And when they do a 6-week investigation and say, in our opinion, you should pay this. In their opinion, that's not very legal, that's not very lawful, it's not very thorough. In my opinion, I shouldn't. And we can both have opinions. So you see where all the mix-up comes with. It's not just the legalese, it's the corporations. Does it look like the judiciary and the executive are working together? Yes, it does.
It looks absolutely like that, Paul. Yeah. Something I thought it would be good to touch on. I know you do quite a few talks, various places around the country, and I know you've got one coming up in the future. Would you like to tell us what you've got coming up, and if you've got anything else planned, so people can come along and actually meet you face to face, Paul?
I couldn't tell you because of work and stuff like that. I've not even sorted out where I'm going to stay or anything for this talk. But it's somewhere. It's called Wakefest. I'm not even sure of the location. I've not even got hold of it yet. I've been that busy. Mm-hmm. But I'll be doing a talk at Wakefest with a few others. The ones off the top of my head that have said that they're going. The ones that are confirmed are the likes of Russell Burton and some others, and Ian Crane has said that if he can make it, he's going to do a talk on fracking. But they've got bands on over the weekend because it's a 2-dayer. It's the 28th and 29th of August. You just have to, I suppose, you just have to Google Wakefest and see what you can sort out. But there's going to be a lot of speakers on there talking about a lot of different things. I've invited Victor Melder up, but he's still a bit and ahhing because you know what he's like. He thinks that there's like 2 people and a dog and they're just going to be passing through, going to turn up. And I said, well, those 2 people and a dog that didn't know, might not know some information that they didn't know before and they know it now. I said, so it's worth still turning up. It's no skin off my nose. You know, there's no such thing about charging money for me for doing this. I turn up, I speak to people because I want people to know this stuff. I'm not asked about charging people for this. If I started charging people for this, it would go against everything that I feel because of what I've been through. Mm-hmm. You know, when you've been on your arse, and I say I've been on my arse, yet I walk. You see people who are homeless. You walk round, you see people who are much worse off than you. Then you look at the world and you see, me, it's not too bad actually. You know, for somebody like me. So you tend to start to feel a bit more humble about your life and, you know, not grumble about everything you've been through. I've said materially, I lost everything. Could I have gone the other way? Could I have been parking outside people's houses and glaring in the windows because I didn't like what they'd done to me? Yeah, I could have. But whose life's that going to affect? That'd be me. That'd be my life that it's going to affect. And I made that promise to myself that I was going to get something out of this. And the fact is that all I found was questions, and when I asked those questions, I got armed police around me. For the first 5 rooms, there was over 30 coppers present, video evidence gatherers, and I'm going, I just don't want to sell my house. What do you want to video me saying I don't want to sell my house for? I couldn't get it. And it tests you. Like I said, the breakdown, I didn't even realise I was having it. And then when I look back, I remember walking around Asda one day and I bumped into a mate of mine and he only said 3 words, how are you? And an hour and a quarter later he said, I'm going to have to stop you, Webby, I need to finish my shopping, I've got to get home to put tea on. He said, because as soon as he asked me how I was, I started prattling on, going, well, the bank's not lending any money and gas water and electric thing and blah, 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 blah. And an hour and a quarter I kept him there and he just touched me on the arm and said, I'm going to have to go, Webby. He said, you do realise I only asked you how you were.
Yeah, I didn't mean it. I didn't really want to know.
No, it wasn't that. He wanted to point out to me that he only asked me how I was, and I kept him for an hour and a quarter, blasting this information at him. And when I look back, I think, wow, I was like hanging on by the skin of my teeth. Because I'll tell you, when you're trying to learn what bailiffs can do and what they can't do, but you're going through it all at the same time and you're representing yourself in a court, and then you're going through that breakdown and you get that eviction order, which I now know is issued with no jurisdiction, no authority, and you think you're going to come home from work at 9 o'clock at night to find all your gear thrown out on the front of your garden, your pets are put into kennels, and you've nowhere to live. Could I risk that? Because I had to go to work. I couldn't protect the property. I had to go. So I had to concede that battle to carry on in the war. But that made me stronger. At the point where I was being evicted, though, when I was sat with my head in my hands, if somebody had just said, Paul, go and sit in that corner, close your eyes and you can go, I would have gone and sat in the corner and thanked them and gone. I was a beaten man at that point. You know, this stuff isn't... It's all well and good coming on and calling people names, and you know, you can have a bit of banter with that. But this has like fundamentally affected people's lives. This turned my life upside down. This could have ended all different kinds of ways. But for some reason I had the right people around me who bandaged me together, who gave me a slap and a kick up the arse when I needed it, and pushed me in the right direction and just let me go. Let me go with the knowledge people don't agree with what I do. People don't agree with it because they're too scared to actually think this information actually shows people that possibly a lot of, if not all of their life could be a lie or based on a lie. And that is very devastating for people who have built a life based on what they've been taught. You know, I've had to unlearn a lot of what I was taught to actually get anywhere with this stuff. And, you know, you get people who ask you questions that you think are just natural. I had a mate of mine who said, I was trying to explain the gas warrants and the John Gyro credits and that. I said, it's easy, it's so easy. And he went, do you speak any languages? I said, un poco. I said, I speak a little bit of Pidgin French. He went, well, I speak fluent Spanish, I find it easy. And I looked at him and I went, yeah, you're right, you've just taught me a lesson. I find this easy, but I don't find Spanish easy. He does, but he doesn't find learning what I'm talking about easy. So that's where I had to try and find, how the hell do I strip this down to the borough bones arse of it and give it to people that everybody can understand. And you've just got to look at it, how I've said, it's so poles apart. Strip it down to that and stay on that. When you're going for a warrant of possession, only argue the warrant of possession. Don't go off on any other subjects because you're playing into their hands. Deal with the warrant, knock the warrant out the park. What's left? Right, you owe us money. Right, well, let's go to county court. Where have you gone? Where have you gone?
Well, I'd just like to come in there, Paul. You said don't go off topic, so that's perfect cue for me to go off topic. And there was an interesting point that I drew from our there were loads of interesting points, some of which would be very difficult to talk about on here. But one that you said was, and it's something I've been hearing from so many people who are doing things perhaps not the same as yourself, because what you, Kev, are doing is pretty much unique, but people who are making other kinds of progress. And they all, or an awful lot of seem to come from a very similar broad experience, and which I can identify with myself. And that is that you're on this path, but you only arrived on this path because things went a bit pear-shaped in your life, and suddenly you're on the bones of your arse. And
you have no choice. You have no choice. When it comes to when situations come to you, slap you across the face, you're either going to bend over and give in, or you're going to have to deal with it. And you know, it's where you're at. In what you were saying, Andy, about where your situation went, you had to deal with it or give up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you remember your situation about people who just zone out of things because that's better than being here. And you didn't have that because there was something else. But you've got to experience that to actually move forward.
Mm-hmm. There's an interesting point Lee's brought up there in the chat room as well. He's saying, just don't open the door. Ignore. That's a law in my world. He said, I've lost count of the number of times I've read distressing stories about bailiff visits, and the stories all start the same. There was a ring on the door or bell, and there was a knock on the door, so I answered it. If you don't answer the door, there's not a lot they can do, is there?
Certainly not with bailiffs. I'm not sure that would work with the gas warrants if that's what you tried, because they'd presume if you just ignored the door, they'd presume you went in and drilled the lock.
Yeah.
If they're going down that route, so but the bailiffs definitely. It's surprising how many people still don't know what powers bailiffs do and don't have, because a lot of people get mixed up with if you don't pay, we'll take away. Where again, like Panorama with the gas warrants, they're not telling you lies, but they're not telling you the truth. They're not telling you why. How can sheriffs, bailiffs do this? How can they do this? The High Court bailiffs. Well, obviously then, this debt has been put into court. And at some point, these people have agreed the debt and possibly even agreed to a payment plan and then reneged on it. That's now contempt of that court that they attended. Of course High Court bailiffs are going to come. But they don't tell you that. They just let you presume that any of these bailiffs can do that. And it's not the case. There's a lot of circumstances that need to happen to actually give them any kind of authority to do that.
There's a little bit there that Lee's added to that, and this is something I'm not familiar with, so I'd like to ask your thoughts on this, Paul. He says locksmiths cannot drill your lock because they need an order from the sheriff, as they are a guild class. If they are using one, it's unlawful entry. You should inform the locksmith he is performing a common law crime.
I agree with everything that he said, but that's not what's happening. Locksmiths are drilling locks. They are believing that they have authority to do this. So even though the argument's correct, it's not stopping them, because I've seen the locksmiths put onto that. I've seen police, like I said about the guy who was arrested whilst they broke it. They didn't need to break into his pocket, they took the keys off him. Police have committed crime. Locksmith committing crime. Bailiffs committing crimes. They all believe they've got authority, but until somebody actually takes them to task as the man or the woman, whoever committing that, nothing will change, because they're not doing anything illegal. They're presuming on something else. You telling them that at the front door means nothing to them, because it's too late. They believe they've got authority. The police have been trained to help them. We've had warrants of possession ordered. We've had police red keying properties to let bailiffs in on a civil matter. As the police are stood there just before they break in saying, this is a civil matter, we can't get involved. Boom, what have you just kicked the back door in for? This is, it's ridiculous stuff. So I agree with everything he says. No, the locksmith can't do that, but they believe they can. They're told that they can, and they do it. And then if nobody then takes that case on by becoming the claimant, they'll keep doing it. And not everybody can do it. But somebody will do it. Somebody will do it. Ben Gilroy's got a massive win. Other people have had massive wins. People have been said, oh, they've lost this and it. I lost. If you look at my British Gas thing, I've lost, because I can't prove that I won. So it doesn't matter. It's everybody about doing something. Somebody do something. If you can't physically interact with these entities, tell people about it, learn about it, sow some seeds. Let's see if people will go, do you know what, I'm pissed off with this as well. I know loads. I had somebody contact me the other day. Again, I had to put them straight, saying they followed my method. I have no method, that's what I did. And he said, well, I've done this, this and this. And he said, now they've thrown the warrants out, and now they won't hear any more warrant applications. I went, so you're at the same stage as me. So they'll either now take you to county court, which I very much doubt, or you're going to have to take them to county court, prove the claim and win it. It's where you're at. I said, at that point, I just went, do you know what, I want to rest. I've got free gas. And it's free because I'm not liable, not free because I'm a sponger, not free because I don't want to pay it, free because that's how it's fucking set up. Go and read.
Because it's free.
Go and fucking read it. It's already paid for. If you don't understand why it's paid for, go and do some fucking research and stop calling people names who are actually trying to put information out there to empower people, to help people. Because you dickheads are doing nothing but muddying waters, and you're going to piss and shit on your own family by doing it. So it's up to people. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. As long as the people who I care about are looked after, and people who don't want to be looked after, who I might have to insist on looking them after at some point, then that's what I'll do, because I fight fiercely for my nearest and dearest. But this information is there free. I learned it for free. Why would I then want anybody else to learn it for nothing else but free? But go and read it. Don't say, show me proof. Go and read it, do something, or just keep learning, and then sort your payments out. Offer payments that suit you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on that thing that Lee was saying about the sheriff there, he's added that getting it's getting the first case in that will break the doors down. We need a precedent. He said getting the sheriff involved might be prudent. He was created when the councils were to protect parish members under Pordom. You may have to actually physically arrest the locksmith or involve a sheriff to come to your dwelling. The police can only act on orders, and warrants are affected by the sheriff, or they used to be.
Well, the warrants can only be affected by the sheriff again if the debt has been agreed to, if they've got a name, if they've got some kind of offer of information for it. They can't. The sheriffs aren't getting involved in anybody who owes money without it going to a court. So the fact is this debt, no matter what you're looking at of a debt, it's the way the economy is set up, especially with the utilities. I'm giving a payment. Am I going to accept debt collectors or a high court bailiff to come and do that? No, I'm not. So I'm not going to interact about it. We're talking about parking fines. Debt collectors get involved. Are you seeing high court bailiffs coming in for this? No. Are you seeing high court bailiffs coming in for things that have gone into court? Yes. Well, how has it gone into court? Because if you've not given them details and you've not agreed to a debt, they have no fucker to take to court. It really is that basic. If you interact with these people, if you get those idiots who say, well, I'll tell you what, just pay £1. You know, you always have them from the companies who say, just pay £1 for today while we sort it out. Once you pay £1, you've insisted that debt is yours. You've agreed that yeah, I agree. That's my debt. Whatever comes with that, I'll pay. And they've got you to take to court. And then inevitably, most people go to a solicitor. I've got this court summons. So you've got an invitation now to go to court. So you're going to go to court with a solicitor. You're going to be deemed a child. Your solicitor's going to represent you. He's given jurisdiction. You're already done. You've signed it. You've consented to it because you've paid £1. If you then decide that, you know, your £1,000 alleged debt now, you've agreed £40 a month, and you pay 2 months, and then you say, I'm not paying it, high court bailiffs are going to come in because they've got the authority. You've already agreed to everything what the high court bailiffs can do. So it doesn't matter whether you stamp your feet and shout all you like. You've already consented to the authority that they've got to come and take your property, to levy your goods. How did you get there? Because you interacted with these people and give them information, and more than likely signed.
Sorry, I'm a bit lost here. Andy?
What you lost with, Jay?
Nothing. You carry on. I'm just zoned out.
Yeah, we all get those moments when it all goes a bit blank. So, yeah, we're coming to the last 10 minutes of the show, Paul. So, have we covered everything you wanted to cover tonight, or is there anything else that we've missed out that you'd like to squeeze in the last 10 minutes?
Well, I didn't really have anything to cover. Like I said, I was following your lead. I would just urge people to look into this information, try and get an understanding as to why, in my opinion, the way I'm presenting it is correct. Have a look at it, see what they get from it. If they want to do something, and they don't, or they don't, doesn't matter. whatever makes their life easiest, but try and do some learning in between. Watch Emmerdale Omnibus on a Sunday. Take the half an hour to learn something. Have a read of something. That's all I would suggest.
Well, can I just not watch Emmerdale at all?
Yeah, but people love Emmerdale.
Yeah, well, you might do, Paul, but
I don't watch TV, Jason. I've not watched TV for 10 years.
I've got to say, the most enjoyable thing about this, we know we've heard your story about the gas warrants and all that sort of stuff, but I think you've got an excellent philosophy, which should be implemented in all parts of your life. Just make sure that your little world is your world. You can't change the world if your world at home is crap, can you? So you need to sort that out first, and then you can try and change the world. But you've got such a great philosophy on just making things simple and doing the best for yourself.
Well, I changed my world, Jason. I changed my world. I changed how I felt about my world. And when I changed how I felt about my world and how I reacted to how I felt, because a lot of the time you react and then you start thinking about why you reacted that way. So when I stopped reacting and started to just let go and let it be and say, do you know what, if it comes to me, it comes to me. My life just got easier. I can't state the gas warrants and that any simpler. The only other stuff that people should be looking at is about mortgages, and look about what's happening with the mortgages. Look at where the money's created from. Look at if the bank has got a stake. Has the bank got a dog in the fight? No, they haven't. Does the mortgage get securitised and sold to reduce liability? Yes, it does. So £100,000 is sold for £90,000. The debtor now owes the creditor only £10,000 from the £100,000 that was facilitated. But they don't tell you that. And they don't tell you that the creditor and the debtor is you, because you take up both positions. Because you're not only the debtor, because you've agreed to pay yourself back, but you're the creditor because that's where the money's come from in the first place. They just made £90,000 on just securitising the mortgage. Under the European Parliamentary directives, they have to take insurance out for you on your behalf as trustees. Your interest payments pays that insurance policy. When you default 3 times, they trigger the insurance on your behalf. They get paid £100,000 in full. That's 190 grand they've made. Now what comes after default foreclosure? They come now for your house and they sell that for £100,000. So that's 290 grand that they've made. They've taken your property, they've turned your life upside down, they've put you on the fucking street, and you still owe them for facilitating your credit.
And so, in essence, you not being able to pay your mortgage is better for them, really, because then they get to default on you, and they claim on the insurance, I assume, as well as chasing you for the money, and then they get to sell the property as well.
That's exactly what I just said.
Over again.
Yeah, they go through the whole lot, and you can't argue against it because they believe they've got presumption of authority. When you do argue against it, the court issues a warrant of possession, because under their presumption, they're presuming that your property is a commercial property, a rateable property. That's what their presumption is. But you're arguing about everything else. I put my whole case into one file at the first hearing, in the kitchen sink and everything. And they ignored it because they were laughing at me because they could, because I wasn't hitting the right arguments. It's all about, it's just unbelievable. The fact is that people are having property stolen with no authority. They don't owe this money to the banks, and they just can't prove it, and they can't get it heard because they work hand in glove. When we turn into these courts, it's 2 wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner, and it's the executive and the judiciary of the wolves, and you have to go in with the correct remedy and put it on the table and say, I'm a wolf, which one of you 2 fuckers are going to be the sheep? That's what it's got to come down to.
A great analogy there, Paul. Thanks for that, mate. Yeah, I'll just take a couple of minutes here to talk about what we've got lined up over the next coming weeks, because we've got quite a lineup, and everybody's been working hard pulling guests in. We have got next Tuesday, we've got Max Egan. Max has been on with us before, but I think it was
Look forward to that one.
Well, Max has got some mind-blowing new stuff that he's talking about. We've
got a show before that as well, though, haven't we? If you, Andy, I think you should perhaps plug that.
Of course we have, yeah. Yeah, we've got an extra from the Sirius report, Paul, our high-level financial insider, but it's a bit of a different one because this time it's just an hour-long one that we did a pre-recording, and he's joined by his partner, Lisa, and it's the first time we've really heard Lisa's voice on the radio, so interesting to get a different perspective from behind the scenes of the Sirius report. And
recorded that one yesterday, and that's going out an hour before in the hour before Tuesday show, isn't it?
That's right. That'll go out after CHEQUE at 7 p.m. and then that's 7 till 8 p.m. We'll be on with Max 8 till 10 p.m. and then Thursday that week that's Thursday the 18th, we have Andrew Johnson, who I haven't spoken to Andrew since last year when we were at Homefirth Conference, I don't think, and I think we had him on the radio, didn't we, a while back, but I think that was probably when I was still with Tom on Enemy Within, wasn't it, Jace?
Yes, that was your previous partner. Can you stop bringing that up? Because it still hurts.
Sorry.
Always bringing up their exes, though, aren't they? Always bringing up their exes.
Oh, yeah.
Andy's not kept any of his underwear. That's all right.
I'm not sure about that, though.
I think the less we talk about Andrew Johnson's underwear, the better. Oh, no, it's Tom's underwear, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Tom won't mind about it. He'll be having a good laugh when it is this. And then Thursday the 23rd, Paul and Lisa coming back for a regular monthly update. Nothing yet for the 25th and 30th, but the September starts with something I'm really looking forward to, something very different. When John Hamer was on with us a few weeks back, he mentioned his friend Timothy Watson, who's done a great deal of research on who the real Shakespeare was. And I've had a bit of a chat with Timothy, and he's been away teaching summer school for a few weeks, so we haven't been able to drag him in, but we'll get him in on the 1st of October. So that's pretty much bringing things to a close. We've got a couple of more minutes before we wind things down. Anything you'd like to say, Jace?
Well, just I think we should probably ask Paul if he's got any websites or anything like that, or any Facebook pages that I know he's off this summer, but perhaps people can look back on his story and shall we invite some trolls to come in and abuse you? And shall we do that? Anything that you want to plug there, Paul?
No, I get a fair share of abuse, but it's completely outweighed by the people who, I wouldn't exactly say it's support that they give me, but the thanks that people give me for saying, hey, this is something I've never looked at before, this is interesting. If just one person a week, one person a day says that, and I get it a lot, I really do get it a lot. I interact with people on a daily basis, particularly through work, and these are people who have got the confidence to look at other things because they've been involved in stuff that would put the living shit in fear into most people, and they're still here, so they're not asked about TV licenses, they're not asked about parking tickets, they're not asked about challenging things like that. And then when they start learning the rights, they'll challenge a bit harder because they've already fought against systems like this. And when you start, people who start waking up like that, all of a sudden you've got a tipping point, you've got a force that's not known. Because, my mate had to take a video that he put up down talking about gas, water and electric, and that you weren't liable, and that he wasn't paying it. And his mum saw it, and his mum texted him and said that she was ashamed because he's not paying his way. And she obviously, old school, she doesn't understand where this is. So people are all fighting different things. And as I said, don't go and fight it, but learn it. For God's sake, go and learn it. If it's raining outside and I come in and say, you better put your coat on, and you tell me to fuck off, and you go out and get pissed wet through, whose fault is it?
Absolutely. I mean, so many people think, I don't need to learn this, I can pay my bills, but
Exactly.
you never know
That's
quite what's
the point.
around the corner.
Exactly, it's not the point. The system's set up by these fuckers to steal from us, and once you learn their game, you can show that they're stealing from you and they shouldn't be doing it. They're very naughty boys and girls. And once you start showing that, they ignore you and fucking walk off and put the prices up.
Yeah, well, that's the show drawn to an end now. I'd like to say a big thank you to Paul Webster for joining us yet again on Raconteurs News. And as always, a huge thanks to Jason. Massive thanks to everyone who works behind the scenes, working so hard. You all know who you are. And I'd just like to say briefly, congratulations. I'm really excited at your brilliant news that you've passed on to us today, uniquely. That's something to really celebrate, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm looking forward to you telling the listeners about that.